Welcome to Behind the Doors, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of residential real estate investing. I'm your host, Dan Noma Jr., here with my co-host, Marvin Cruz.
We're here to help you unlock the best strategies and practice for investors. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro looking to scale your portfolio.
We've spent decades navigating the ever-changing world of real estate, and now we're sharing everything we've learned to help you succeed.
From off-market deals to cash flow management and everything in between, we'll break it down and bring you actionable insights that can make a real difference in your investments.
So get ready to open the door to new opportunities and take your real estate investing to the next level. Let's dive in. All right, guys. Well, welcome to Behind the Doors podcast. Today, I'm missing my co-host Marvin today. So Marvin's stuck at the office today, had a bunch of things going on today. But I am super excited today because we've got a couple special guests for you guys today. So we've got Saad and Mathias from Baselane today. And I'm going to get into a little bit of like how like Saad and I got together. We met at an IMN conference. So we got together at a conference. We actually do work at these conferences, so we were trying to network and figure out what we could do. And you know, we obviously run like a cash offer marketplace, connected to a lot of investors. And what Baselane is doing is super interesting. And you know, when he told me what you guys were creating, I think I was like super intrigued because I, as an investor, feel all the pain points that most investors feel, which is probably the reason you guys created this product. When dealing with my bank, who is like a traditional bank, with all of my rental properties or investment properties. So I'll give you guys a second. Like Mathias, why don't you lead us off? I mean, you're the CEO and the founder. Let us know a little bit about, Baselane. Tell us what you guys do.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dan, for having us on your podcast. Very excited to share the Baselane story. So, I'll tell a bit about Baselane and actually walk you through kind of, the genesis of how kind of Baselane starts, roughly 5 years ago. Baselane today is a financial platform and bank for real estate investors. We're very much built just around how real estate investors invest and manage their finances. I've spent over a decade working in financial services, started my career working in investment banking, and then had a long career working as a consultant, helping large financial service companies across the United States build out new technology, and kind of got really deep into the nuts and bolts of building banks and launching new financial service products. And for most people, launching a bank may seem very, very tough, but there's been a lot of financial innovation across the infrastructure that exists that allowed us to say there's an opportunity to actually go build something very unique for just real estate investors. And we firsthand, I saw how real estate investors were mostly doing all their bookkeeping in Excel, making payments on Venmo, using all sorts of tools that were basically built for individuals or just general SMBs, but really not for real estate investors, right? Obviously, real estate investors have very specific tax codes. They have a very specific flow of funds, right? They're collecting, rent every month. They're paying out, high expenses, mortgages, every month. They have to manage the folks that are renting properties, and so there's a whole different system that is needed beyond just a bank account Excel document, and it was highly fragmented. And so there was this light bulb moment that after speaking to tons of real estate investors, I own a few properties itself. Just we can actually go and build something that is actually quite unique and extremely powerful to really help kind of empower a new generation of real estate investors that want to bridge this gap and want to have a modern automated financial tool to help them just be more successful. And so, Baselane gets started as an idea 5 years ago. We launched the platform, 3.5 years ago. Today, we have, over 50,000 investors, banking with Baselane, and we continue to grow at a tremendous speed. So excited to share the story, and hopefully, more investors hear about Baselane and start to understand kind of the value they can get out of our platform.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, starting a bank. I mean, that's like what a unique thing to just like come out and say. People are like, I'm going to start a dry cleaner, start that, starting a bank. I mean, what an unbelievable concept. So, Saad, tell us a little bit about you, man. What brought you to Baselane? How did you guys get together?
Yeah, my story's a little bit similar. I have a background in finance and consulting as well. I accidentally became a landlord when I didn't sell my first house in New York, and I was moving to my second home. And I actually had it on sale, and somebody told me a very wise piece of advice was don't sell. It's in Brooklyn, keep it, rent it out. And I thought, oh, okay, like let me try that out. And when I started investing, I realized it was actually really attractive in terms of cash flow. So I started investing in real estate a bit more a few years after. But then I, like any other, I would say millennial, realized the pain that you suffer when you invest in real estate, especially I would say 5, 6 years ago, because this is one of those left behind industries that just didn't have the technology. So as a everyday user who's working in technology, I was working at a tech startup prior to this. My expectations for what I wanted to do with my rentals and how I wanted to manage them and automate and organize everything, they were just not being met. And I actually fortuitously met Matthias and Torben through a friend of mine who was complaining to about this problem. And he's like, "Oh, they're just starting this company. You should talk to them." And so I joined as a first business hire about a year after that, after launch. And so, I think what's been fun about Baselane is that as an investor, not only do I obviously have the benefit of using it for my day to day, but I also am helping build, what I think, the vision is and what we think that millions of landlords need today. There's, I think, roughly 15 million landlords in the US right now and growing as the transfer of assets happens from the baby boomers to their children and grandchildren. And this generation is expecting, like myself, they're expecting automation, technology, the ability to get insights, and getting rid of sort of all the old methods of collecting rent, banking, which serves a need for you for your business and is tailored and is personalized. And that's what we're here to deliver on, and that's what we're working on. And so I think we'll talk more about it, but I think the real value is for people like me. I've got about 18 units right now, just organization, automation. So I save a lot more time on that busy work, and that we can really focus in on the ability to, make smarter decisions about the overall portfolio.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably got to get my account like rolling and set up because I recently just had an issue with the tenant, where they paid me like partial rent on a Venmo app. And then, I went to go hand it to my bookkeeper and she was asking me like, how do I report this? And it just became like an entire nightmare. So, I'm probably, your next call to get
Yeah,
linked
let's
up
do
and
it.
get this
We'll
rolling,
get you hooked up.
get,
Yeah.
get me rolling. So, maybe like, to kick it off, let's walk through maybe the overview of how the automated banking works, how the rent collection piece works, and maybe the bookkeeping piece, because I do think that that's like critical. And I think that's the one thing that every year, like my bookkeeper and I, when we sit down to look at, each individual property to figure out what we're going to do for depreciation or figure out what we're going to do for, did this thing actually make money this year, independent of the others? It's hard. It's just hard because it's all through one entity and they're all going, in and out. The money's moving in and out. So I think what you guys do in the vision to like have the kind of clear dashboard of each individual asset, I think is very cool. So maybe just walk us through that kind of overview as you would with a regular investor.
Yeah, I'll take this one. I mean, I think I'll explain it in two ways. One, there's this amazing power that we provide by integrating everything in one place. So your bank is your bookkeeping platform. It is where you get all your financial reporting, your tax reporting, and at the same time, it is where you collect rent, all in one login, right? So there's this direct, seamless integration of everything, right? So your bank account connection isn't getting disconnected from Chase bank account. If you're connected into QuickBooks or using something else, right? So already that just brings everything together and makes things much easier. But then as you get into each piece, right, we've gone and built a banking platform that is really focused on the way that our investor customers use a bank, right? They have multiple accounts for properties, and they want to open a bank account for one property, and maybe there's multiple units within that property, and they want to maybe hold security deposits segregated, and they maybe want to have an account for profit. And so with the click of a button, you can actually open up all of these sub accounts, create all sorts of automation rules around it, so that your bookkeeping is done automatically. Right, and then the bookkeeping piece is tied directly into the bank account. So we have over 120 real estate specific categories, all tied to different tax schedules. You can forget about spreadsheets. All of your reporting is done automatically. right? You can see all sorts of financial reporting. You can see tenant ledgers, rent rolls, and obviously dive into specific tax schedules as needed. And then of course your rent collection is there as well. So you kind of click on a tab, you set up rent collection. Obviously you can customize it as needed, and rent collection flows directly into your Baselane bank account, right? And we've started adding other financial service elements as well. We help our tenant customers report their on-time payments to the bureau to boost their credit scores. We've now offered a flexible rent product, so our customers, renters, can pay in installments of 4. Obviously, they'll get paid day one, but we behind the scenes are making sure that the renters can pay in installments of 4 and really increase on-time payments, and kind of expand the pool of potential applicants. And something that I'll get into a little bit, and I'll give you a sneak peek, is we're launching what we call Baselane Smart. So what I've explained before is Baselane Core. It's a free product. We're launching Baselane Smart, which is our first kind of foray into AI and automation. And it delivers tremendous value and power for our customers to be able to say even take more time away and have Baselane's AI and automation actually take care of most of your bookkeeping. You can drop in 100 receipts and we'll automatically classify them against all the transactions that you have. I'll dive more into kind of Baselane Smart, but really the power is to drive greater control, much more efficiency, and just be able to take time away from doing the financial busy work to go do other things, whether it's finding new deals or taking a walk on the beach.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, but as a landlord, just one clarifying question: they don't, like, if they had a property manager, that
Yep.
doesn't mean that they wouldn't plug in with you guys. You can work directly with the property manager too, and set up those payments and things to be rolling directly through.
100%. Yeah. So I think that's a great question, and there are existing softwares that tons of customers use to screen tenants or sign a lease document. We've started to embed some of those tools into our product as well. Really, we are the financial management engine, right? The banking, bookkeeping, and payments hub. You may not need to use this for rent collection if you're using a property manager, but you definitely need to manage a bank account. You still are the one that is responsible for managing your expenses, paying taxes, even if you're using a property manager. And we have collaboration tools, so you can actually give access to your property manager to Baselane, so they can actually be the ones that view things. You can actually give them greater access if you want to be able to kind of manage payments on your behalf as well. And we're investing more into kind of bring the property manager into Baselane as kind of this collaboration tool as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a couple of I would say team members or partners you could say that you need, and so property management is one of them. Your a new trend, which is virtual assistants. Like, everybody has virtual assistants these days. And so they need some type of limited access to be able to, do operational things in your account. And then there's sort of either the bookkeepers or the CPAs that need access as well, either throughout the year or, towards the end of the year when you have taxes coming up. So the multi-user access allows folks to be able to, handle the ability to give access to one of those team members. Maybe it's a person in your team that you hired for internal property management. So that's there. But yeah, the overall idea is that we'll add more of those types of features to allow for the flexibility for you to work with other people that you already work with in reality.
Yeah, that's sweet. So you're just plugging in everybody into your one banking suite here. If they touch anything financial related, and it's all there, right? It's all in one solid place. What about you guys mentioned the tenant side of things? So what does the tenant experience look like for your tenants? And maybe as part of, to couple that question, like with your current users, have they noticed like an increase maybe in long-term tenancy as a result? Like, tenants are like, wow, I'm going to stay here because I want to stick with this product at all?
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, I think if you look at kind of the starting point, it's crazy that still the majority of rent is paid on kind of manual payment rails, whether it's a check or someone sending a wire to you, or even kind of Venmo, right? Like, you have to do a process to reconcile it, make sure that it's been received. As you mentioned, you received half of it, right? So our first goal is, how do we actually create a really quick onboarding for the tenant and allow them to actually set up automated rent? And so what that does is that you're increasing on-time payments drastically for the renters that come onto Baselane, right? They come on, they set up within a minute. They have a beautiful platform that shows them really quickly all their invoices, how much they're due. They can click them. They can set up auto payment. We allow them to pay with a debit card, with a credit card. You can just connect your bank account in a couple clicks. And then now we've started adding additional services as well for the renters, right? We want them to be able to obviously boost their credit score with on-time payments. That incentivizes them to pay on time even more, right? They want to get increased. We've seen some customers increase their credit scores over 50 points, some even 100 points. And then at the same time, we want to give them flexibility, right? So many times someone missed rent because they didn't have money in their bank account today, but maybe it's coming in a few days. And so with the flexible rent product, you can actually pay in installments of 4, right? As the investor or landlord, you're receiving money on the day it's due. Baselane will pay you when it's due, and then you have the ability to pay kind of in 4 installments across the month. So all of that kind of combined, does drastically improve kind of on-time payments, which obviously is critical for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. The tenants out there, we had a property manager in as a guest a few weeks ago, and we chatted a lot about now. I remember like a time, like I came from the institutional world, right, where we used to treat tenants almost like a dime a dozen, right? It was
Right.
like we put these properties on the market, we get like 15 applications, and we were just like picking one and we'd go with it. Now, obviously, the process has become more detailed, right? And like data and information has started to open our eyes to the idea that we've got to make sure that we've got the right tenant in there, right? The quality tenant. And then when you get the tenant in, it's treating that tenant in a way so that they would stay longer with us, right? And really, like, we noticed that turns and the expense of vacancy is brutal in a tight market. And so it's important that we give the tenant a better, more high quality experience. And I think like you guys really highlight that for the tenant, where now the tenant comes in, especially just like think about the credit score, credit reporting piece. And I've heard different property managers are doing it different ways, but the fact that you guys are reporting it to the bureaus for them, I mean, that's solid, because a lot of people, maybe if they get stuck, where they've got to rent, maybe they can't afford to buy today. It's usually a credit issue potentially, but they still want some credit history, right? It's good to get that going and keep that rolling. I mean, nobody knows better than you guys as bankers and lenders, but I think that's a critical piece for the tenants, just so that they're part of this ecosystem, right? And we've got to make sure we're treating them with respect and giving them opportunity to dive into some of the tech, because for years in this industry, we just didn't see it, right? There was really nothing that was for the tenant. And then all of a sudden now it seems like, there's some unique stuff that's coming out to help these tenants out.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think we have a broader vision for tenants as well. Obviously you're moving into a home. There's all sorts of things you need to set up. So how do we enhance that kind of move-in experience, which enhances someone wanting to stay there, but also make it readily available in your pocket, so you can actually quickly view what's happening with rent and everything really quickly and easily from your phone. So I think it's just kind of bringing the experience to a very digital format and providing all sorts of additional services as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you were to take like Baselane, versus a traditional bank, if you were the first time landlord, like how would you explain it to them that what makes Baselane different than that traditional bank out there?
I could take this one. I think generally speaking, it's important to understand what the situation is, which is the reality is most of the 15 million landlords that I mentioned in the US, they own less than 4 properties. They own an average of like about 2.5 roughly. And so it's not that they don't have a bank account. They may have some sort of a banking relationship with their parents' bank, and then they like kept that for their personal. One of the sort of first low-hanging fruit sort of challenges is not commingling funds. And we still see a lot of that happening today, which is you're using your personal checking account or savings account, and you're using that for your rental business. And so one of the things we like to focus on is making sure that you're setting it up like a business and you're not commingling funds. So for a newer landlord, just that step alone adds a lot of value. right? Because now you're separating these two things, and it's easier for you to do a lot of other things after that. For example, like the ability to reconcile the income and expenses for each door that you have, being able to file taxes faster and cleanly. There's people that are 4 years behind, 3 years behind the tax filings because they didn't have the data cleaned up. And really, I think that's about having the right behavior. And our approach to that on the product side is not like just telling people what to do, is like giving them a product that just makes it super easy for them to do that, right? And so with Baselane, I think now getting to the what's different, not only do we obviously have a lot of bells and whistles I'll talk about in a second, but one of the first things is opening a business checking account. I don't know when's the last time you did that, but I'm curious, like how long did it take you to do that when you opened your last business checking account?
Yeah, I've been banking at like a relationship bank for a while, but it wasn't easy, right? Like, I mean, I had to fill out an application and then they had to approve it. I mean, it probably took like all in, it probably took 3 or 4 days, right, to get it
Right.
unlocked and opened up. Yeah.
Right. So what if I told you like we can do that in like 4 minutes?
Yeah,
Right.
that's
That's the
amazing.
difference. So that's step number one, is just applying from anywhere at your convenience digitally. Obviously, we still do the full application and KYC and all of that, right? Um, and being able to bring partners in, right? So I've got a partner. I had to like get a wet signature the last time I opened a traditional bank account. Had to go down to the branch. Took us like several days and a lot of time invested. So there's a value of just like opening something up quickly and easily, and that makes the behavior of not commingling funds easy, right? No problem. You're telling me I can do it here in 4 minutes? Sure. That's one thing. And then when you get into the bank account, now we're giving you a lot of organization, which you do not have at really any bank, frankly, other digital banks included, which is the ability to now take your bank account and break it down into meaningful parts that you need for your business, right? So, for example, you might have a main account, which is your operating account, but we can do sub accounts like, hey, I want a maintenance reserve account. I want to have my security deposits set aside separately so I don't spend that money accidentally. I want to have a new deal savings account. You can do all of that in a couple of minutes maximum, right? And you can map those accounts to properties automatically as well, so that when the income is coming in or the money's coming in, you already know what property it's for. And then we have what we call virtual debit cards. So we give you a physical debit card, but you also have virtual debit cards, and that allows you to then have better spend control. So you're spending money on maintenance, you're spending money on cleaning, on supplies refreshes for short-term rentals or long-term rentals, whatever it is. You can create cards for that purpose, that use case. You can pre-tag it to that in the bookkeeping side of things. You can map it to an address. So again, when you want to check where did I spend the money a year later, you know exactly where it was because it was already pre-programmed, right? And so this entire area alone is what I'm saying is most banks cannot do that are incumbents at all. Even a lot of the digital banks cannot do that. And for us, we're focused entirely on real estate. And so that's just what our bread and butter is. So that's what we're delivering. And what that leads to is more organization and more automation and less time spent on all this grunt work. So for example, I've got my mortgage payment set on autopay with my credit union, but I'm programming that payment through Baselane. I transfer the money automatically every month, a few days before it's due, for example. I've got all my accounts set up at the property level so I don't have to reconcile anything. All the reconciliation is done. Why? Because all the money came into that sub account and all the money went out of that sub account. So I know it's for that property, no reconciliation needed. It's done, right? And this is all aside from the high APY that we offer. So we offer very attractive, high yield on your savings accounts that we offer. So you can earn up to 3.35% APY. Of course, our fees, we don't have any monthly maintenance fees or minimum requirements. And we have discounted wires at $15, free ACH. And so just some of these things I'm talking about now are like, hundreds of dollars of value per year that landlords will get immediately from using Baselane. And again, Matthias mentioned this, it's tied to our bookkeeping because we built the bookkeeping next to it and it's really the same product. It leads to so much more insight we can talk about in a couple of minutes, and just gives you a lot more financial clarity and control. So you're running your business with confidence and you're not doing any guesswork.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see obviously the use case for that like first time investor who really doesn't know. I mean, that they don't know the problem that they're going to get into, right? If you end up with one property and you're spending on your American Express, for example, and you've got, 2 or 3 different charges or whatever for the month, and then you've got all of your personal expenses being charged on that same card. Like you're doing what I'm doing right now, which is going in and checking the box for my
Annually.
bookkeeper and highlighting which, charges
Right.
go to which thing. And it's time consuming, right? So it's not only that you guys are saving people, time just in the bookkeeping process, but the fact of like you as a landlord having to actually do the work before you pass it on to a bookkeeper or something too, you're saving me time, right? And, Mathias
Yep.
opened up to this is, that saves me time to like, if I'm going to get into this seriously and be a serious investor, I need more time to, make sure my units are up to date, and I need more time to go look for new inventory. And so I think that those things are critical, right? And it's the time value of money problem, right? And it's not a problem that probably most people know they have until you're in it. And then it becomes like, I'm in it and this is just part of my normal daily practice. And they forget that how much time they're wasting on stuff like
Totally.
that.
I'm actually doing a training called the 10K admin error and how to avoid it at the SCR Wealth Conference actually this week. And we've done this a few times with investors, which is saying that you think that you're saving money by maybe not doing some of things properly, but on the financial management, which is where we play, and the asset management side of things, you're actually hurting yourself and you're costing yourself thousands of dollars by not doing this properly, by not organizing your banking, by not doing your bookkeeping, on a weekly, monthly basis. And what that leads to, what we show in that training is that leads to, almost like $10,000 a year of loss to you, not just on the direct loss, but the opportunity cost, probably more because you're just heads down on busy work, right? You're not doing the strategic things.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've been busy doing busy work or, labor admin level work, and a deal pops in and I should be underwriting the deal. I should be looking at to see if that's my next opportunity. But, I'm like, nope, I've dedicated this time to knock this out. And then next thing I know, they missed the opportunity. So who knows how much money we could have missed there. What, like your user base today, you guys mentioned you have over 50,000, users already, which is amazing. What do they typically look like? Are they residential real estate investors in the majority? New multiple properties? Like what's the mix right now?
Yeah. So, I would say 95% of our customers are residential landlords. We do have, some customers that have a mix of asset classes, but the vast majority is residential. Of that, obviously, the vast majority is, single family homes, but obviously there's a quite variety of assets on the platform. I've found some pretty interesting use cases of folks that are even renting out, 20 sailboats and trailer parks on our platform, but that's the minority. The vast majority are obviously owning portfolios that range anywhere from one to sometimes a couple hundred units of residential real estate. And I would say something that kind of defines our customer most is that they're in this vision of wanting to grow. Right, they may have a few units, but they say, what is the platform that it's going to empower me to be able to get to 5 units or 10 or more, right? And so they're looking for the platform that has that ability to be scalable, to drive efficiency, but also empower them with the right insights to know where things aren't performing and to improve things, and obviously give them the time, right? I speak to customers that had 10 properties, and for them that was kind of the capacity that they could kind of manage on their own. Sometimes they had full-time job on the side, and with Baselane they said, oh, I can actually double the amount of properties, right? I no longer have to spend 5 hours a week managing all the transactions that are coming in and tagging them and following up with my tenant on payments and actually scheduling out all these payments to different folks that are doing upkeep across my properties. That is all automated, and now I can focus on other things in scaling my portfolio. So I think it's the landlord has like 1 to 100 units, but has this vision to grow.
Yeah, I would say maybe a quick story there. We met an owner that came to us kind of inbound. We didn't really seek him out. He had, I think, a 8-unit building for like years, and that's all he had. He just stuck managing that and was like operating it. And he told our CX team that after he started using Baselane, he got a lot more confidence in his numbers because he was like tracking everything, and he started realizing how, in terms of like the profits, how positive it was. he was able to make a decision to buy a 16-unit building like a year later, right? Just because he was now using data to make decisions, and he was able to say, "Oh yeah, like this works. I'm gonna go like double down on this strategy." And for me, that is the essence of what we're building here. Is everybody has a dream of financial independence, retire early, generate a legacy for your family, and obviously have tax savings in the real estate investment world. And whether you're doing long term, mid term, short term really doesn't matter. Everybody has a goal of trying to achieve those goals, and that translates to income goals. And Baselane can give you the data, the insight, the know how, and the time back that you need to go do that, basically.
Yeah, I could really see like the value even when you go to sell an asset, right? Like one of the challenges that I deal with in acquisition a lot is, when we're in due diligence, say with a buyer on a property, getting the financial data, right? So if let's say it's a short-term rental and I'm now asking for, the last 12 months, right? I want the rolling 12, I want all the financials. Getting that data is always a challenge. And then what is the accuracy of the data, right? And then it gives me buyer anxiety because I look at like, some of the stuff is like a receipt or back of a napkin and stuff like that. And I'm like, gosh, and then I'm now renegotiating with them because I've got some uncertainty, right? And I think what you guys can do for an owner is give them proper accounting that eventually if they decide to pass the property on, they now can pass that on seamlessly, right? And that package delivers value to a buyer. And maybe that gets overlooked a bit because that has a ton of value, especially from a guy that spends his life in due diligence looking at stuff.
And I think you have a very keen vision. I think we've thought about this, quite a bit around kind of how we can empower, folks when they're selling their properties. But obviously, like what you explain now, the financial report, that's done instantly. Like that's done live behind the scenes, right? And so you don't have to spend time on that. Of course, the accuracy is so important. With Baselane, when you tag something once, and a pop-up will come up and say, "Do you want to tag this transaction with this same, wording every single time to this category automatically?" So you'll just it's set in this forget in a way, right? Obviously, it's still important to go and review and have an understanding of it. And we give very clear dashboards for people to see that you can audit things really clearly, but just massive time savings and accuracy.
Amazing. You guys touched on this, and I want to make sure we grab it before we run out of time. But where are you guys heading? I know that you guys have a roadmap, and trends in PropTech are definitely evolving. Right, this is a fast moving for an industry that's almost been quiet in acquisition for a couple of years. There's been a lot of movement on the PropTech side of things, and especially with AI. And so I assume you guys are leaning into that. Maybe give us a taste of what's next.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think you've nailed it. I think automation and AI is definitely kind of the future. We've spent, the last, 3.5 years really building kind of the infrastructure, tying this all seamlessly together, right? Building a lot of this financial infrastructure, has its challenges. You have to build something that is highly robust, and can scale. But now, that base is set, and now we're really focusing on kind of going across our product set and building tons of automation. So we're launching Baselane's first native AI tool. We've ingested over 5 million transactions to accurately to 99.9% categorize your transaction to over 120 different real estate categories. So let's say a Home Depot expense comes in, we know exactly what category it comes into. And we've created all sorts of custom categories as well. So if you want to go and actually have a rule that says, when this specific Venmo comes in, I want to actually tag that to this and have that automatically tagged going forward. And so that plus building all sorts of kind of other automations around kind of auto receipt matching, smart fund transfers. So you want to make sure that you always have sufficient funds across each account to cover for expenses or move disbursements of profit to a specific account, make the whole money movement automatic. And then obviously on top of that, building in some automations for our renters as well, right? But the main thing is how do we make it so that you have an automated vision of your finances and that all financial workflows are fully automated. And I think this is the beginning. I think as we enhance this, we're going to have so much data from our customers that we can actually bring this data back to our customers and provide them all sorts of insights. So imagine you own a few properties in Arizona. What are like landlords in Arizona? what are their expense ratios like, how are their, vacancy rates like, all sorts of stuff, and kind of bring back information to our customers to really help them improve the way they manage their property.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, those would be great insights. Obviously, that's tough stuff to get your hands on, especially if you're an independent landlord out there. You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. You think you're doing it right. You might be overspending and you have no idea, right? And so if you guys can help with that, that's
I think that's something that's
brilliant.
always been kind of top of mind for us, especially, you've worked kind of, at an institutional level, right? You have all sorts of different data sets as a large scale investor that, usually kind of individual landlords don't have access to. And so there's definitely kind of this vision to how do we empower, sometimes kind of a smaller investor with that same level of institutional grade, tech, to really help them just, be able to kind of focus on what matters.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's, that kind of lines up very well with like our vision is really to provide that mom and pop landlord with institutional grade data and analytics to make a buying decision, right?
Yep.
But post buying, we're kind of out of the equation, right? So we're out of that piece, and we're relying on property managers and obviously you guys to help our landlords so that they continue buying, right? Well, that's our goal. Well, cool. Well, how does our listeners find out more about you guys? Like, how could they find out more about Baselane, and where should they go?
Yeah, I would just head over to baselane.com. It's BASELANE, to avoid any confusion. So baselane.com would be the best place to go. If folks are interested in talking to us or individually, me or Mathias, feel free to reach us on LinkedIn. I think we're pretty responsive there. And we will be sending out a special offer to your listeners also here, Dan. I don't think we planned this, but I just want to let you know we'll be offering a $100 sign up bonus. So if we can send that out or put it in the description, we'll add a code for you there so that people are a link that people can follow to get some value out of it. And if anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. We also have a pretty public feature roadmap, so we can share that as well, so you can understand what we're building, what we're working on, what we're thinking about. And we're very interactive with our customer base, and that's kind of why beyond probably 6 months, we're not going to say what we're building, because we're actively analyzing data and feedback. So we'll be happy to share that too and get more input from folks that are listening.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Well, any final words of advice for our listeners of active investors out there?
I think my main one is, we have said this before, people do so much, they spend so much time and effort investing in even just one rental property. We really want everybody to treat it like a business, run it like a pro, because nowadays the market margins are kind of compressed. There's a lot of inflationary pressures on expenses. So it's not just about buying right. You also have to be efficient, and the way you allocate your expense capital, how you spend your money, is super important. And so now more than ever, you need the tools like Baselane to be running your business smartly and keeping up to date. Don't wait till the end of the year for financials. Get that done on a weekly, monthly basis, so you can make smart decisions. So my advice is to be running like a pro, and by doing some of those things.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, get organized, start saving money, right? That's
Exactly.
the theme for 2025, 2026, I'm sure. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Doors. We hope you found today's insights valuable for your real estate investing journey.
Remember, real estate success doesn't happen overnight, but with the right tools and strategies, you can build long-term wealth and create passive income.
If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with others who are passionate about real estate investing.
Don't forget to follow us on social media for more tips and exclusive content.
Until next time, keep unlocking new opportunities, and we'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Doors.